Very good morning, guys. Today we start the new chapter in your management accounting. Again, it is a common chapter for SYBAF as well as SYBCom, and the name of the chapter you all know very well. The name, it is working capital. In all your chapters what we have done till now in management accounting, vertical financial statements, common size comparative trend, and even ratios, in each and every chapter you all have heard the word working capital. What is working capital? We know working capital is nothing but the difference between your current assets and current liability. As far as accounting equation is concerned, working capital is current assets minus current liability. Now what you all did earlier in all those chapters, they straight away gave you the amount of current asset, they gave you the amount of current liability. So wherever we were supposed to find out working capital, the working capital was the difference between the two. But here the concept is different. The concept is same, but there are calculations. Now say for example, in your earlier chapter, they gave you straight away the figure of stock. Here we will have to find out the figure of stock. They gave you the debtors ka amount in the earlier chapters. Here we have to find out the debtors ka amount. Creditors ka amount was directly given. We have to find out. Outstanding wages, outstanding expense, cash and bank balance, prepaid expenses, all figures were given directly. Here we have to find out each and every current asset and current liability ka figure. Now before that, again I'll explain you in detail what exactly do you mean by working capital. Accounting equation you all know, it is the difference between current assets and current liability. But working capital is nothing but it is a short-term source of finance. It is a short-term source of finance, and every businessman to do business needs working capital. Now say for example you are having a business of say mobile phones or any business. You need to keep stock. For that you need money. You want to buy stock, you need money. You have staff, you have to pay them salary, you need money. You have to pay expenses of business, you need money. So to incur day-to-day business expenses and purchasing goods and all that, you need to have a certain amount of money with you at any given point of time, so your day-to-day expenses are not stuck up. That is a strong example of working capital. So working capital is nothing but it is a short-term source of finance, and it is the money required to conduct your day-to-day business expenses. As I told you, you'll have to buy goods, you have to, of course you'll sell goods, you'll get money also. Money comes, money goes, money comes, money goes. So certain amount of money at any given point in time has to be with you to incur day-to-day business expenses. That is working capital. And as I discussed, accounting equation, current assets minus current liability. Now as I told you, you will have to calculate each and every item of current assets ka value, each and every item of current liability ka value, and you have to get the working capital on that basis. Now what will happen now? Majority salesmen, they will give you the information that this is the material ka amount, this is the labor ka amount, this is the wages ka amount, this is my selling price, these are my units, this is the credit period allowed to my debtors, this is the credit period what I get from my creditors, this is the amount for which the stock will be held up. So all these information you have to gather, and according to that you have to do the calculation and get the working capital. How to do that, you don't worry at all, don't get confused from my example. I will do each and every calculation from my side to make the chapter very, very simple for you all. And to be honest, this chapter is a very simple and a scoring chapter. There will be few calculations towards the end, but if you get the concept, there is nothing to lose marks in this. It is very, very simple. Only thing is just keep on practicing, and otherwise it's a pure simple chapter. Now there are other things also, but if I explain now it will become too early. So same procedure what I followed in earlier chapters, according to the flow of the chapters, as and when the new points keep on coming, I will keep on explaining you. So today in this session, I'll be just solving one basic sum so that you get the base of the chapter. Take out the practical sums part. First page, question number 1. The first question of your practical part. Let's read the sum. From the following information pertaining to Ambika Limited, prepare a statement of working capital requirement. Budgeted sales is given 2,60,000 per annum. That means the sales amount is given. See, this chapter is purely budgeted. You have to estimate. Budgeted sales means what you are going to sell, what you are going to sell. So this entire chapter, working capital, we also call it as requirement of working capital, is purely predictions, purely budget. You have to make your estimates, and it is not an actual figure, it is estimated amount. Now analysis of sales per unit is given. Raw material, labor, overheads, total cost, profit, selling price. It is estimated that raw material remain in stock for 3 weeks and finished goods for 2 weeks. Factory processing takes 3 weeks. Suppliers allow 5 weeks credit. Customers are allowed 8 week credit. Assume that production and overheads accrue evenly throughout the year. I will explain you each and every line ka meaning. But before that, first, how you will prepare the format. What you have to do? There is no journal entry, no ledger account in this entire subject only. In the old syllabus, when this chapter was in TY, there used to be couple of sums where there were accounts to be prepared. But since this chapter has come in SY, they have stopped, they have removed it from the syllabus. So what you will do? First, you will have to prepare a statement. Now, this is which company? Ambika Limited. So what you will do? You will give the heading Statement of Working Capital Requirement for Ambika Limited. Have they given you the period or year? No. For the year dash dash dash. Year is not given. Now, there will be a table. It's like a journal, but not exactly journal. So what you will do? In every sum, you will prepare this. The length will keep on changing according to the size of the question. But here we are doing purely basic sum. So you will just require a little bit more than half a page. For this, you will be requiring little bit more than half a page, and below there will be a working note. So particulars and double column of amount. This is not journal, this is just a statement. Okay guys, now listen. How to start? Just have a glance at point number A, B, C, D. Just see which is the common word which you can see in all the 4 points. I repeat, just have a glance again on point A, B, C, D and see which is the common word. Can I say weeks? Weeks is the common word. Now see, they have given you some data. Raw material, direct labor, overheads, total cost, profits and sales. On the top, they have given you the total expected sales for the full year is 2,60,000. Now what will happen? Whenever they give you the data per unit, the material, labor, overhead, sales, that means in that case, there has to be direct or indirect information for units. So, since the common word is weeks, before I start putting anything in the table, first I should know what is the number of units produced and sold during the week. First, I should know what is the number of units produced and sold each week, because it is weeks. Suppose it was months, I would have got units per month. If it was days, I would have got units per day. But normally they will give you weeks and months only. Okay guys, so first thing is I will prepare a working note finding out the units produced and sold per week. I'll make a working here. Working note. Calculation of units produced and sold per week. Calculation of units produced and sold per week. Now listen. For this, first I should know the number of units expected to be produced throughout a year. They have not given you the direct information, but see, they have told you the total sales is 2,60,000. During the full year, my total sales is 2,60,000. Now, each unit is sold for 10 rupees. So, when I say if my total sales is 2,60,000 and each unit is sold for 10 rupees, so 2,60,000 divided by 10, that means 26,000 will be my units for the full year. So, what we'll do? First, we will show uska presentation. Units per year is equal to 2,60,000 divided by 10, that is 26,000. Getting it, guys? I'll repeat again. 2,60,000 is my total sales in rupees for the entire year. Each unit is sold for 10 rupees. So 2,60,000 divided by 10, my units for the full year become 26,000. Now, what was the common word? Common word was weeks. This is the units per year. So now what I do? Therefore, units per week is equal to 26,000. Now, in a year there are how many weeks? 52 weeks. So what I will do? I will divide this by 52. If the word instead of weeks was months, I would have divided by 12. If it was days, I would have divided by 365. But this is weeks, so I divide by the number of weeks, that is 52. Therefore, my units per week is 500. That means every week I will produce and sell 500 units. This is very important because in each and every calculation, this 500 will be common. I hope it is appearing on the screen properly. Yeah, this 500 will be common. Got it, guys? I hope there is a, yeah, this 500 units will be common. So wherever we don't have the units per week or per month, first we will have to do this calculation. Of course, there are few sums where units won't be there. So in that case, this working will not come, but majority of the sums may, this working will come. So now I got the base. Every week I am going to produce 500 units. So that will be the base for making this statement. Okay, guys. So now this is done. Let's come to the main statement. What is the chapter? Working capital. What I told you, accounting equation. Working capital is difference between your current assets and current liability. So now what we'll do? Come to the table. Give the heading current assets. Give the main heading current assets. Working capital is what? Current assets minus current liability. So first I will calculate all current assets. After that I will calculate current liabilities. Now listen. You all know what are current assets. Stock, cash and bank, debtors, prepaid expenses, hard cash, cash balance, cash in hand, bank balance, bill receivable, all these are your current assets. So they will give you current assets ka some indirect information, and as I mentioned in the starting, you will have to find out the value of each current asset and current liability. Now listen, the presentation will depend upon each professor. Everybody has his own style of teaching. Everybody has its own style of presentation. But At the end of the day, whatever is your answer, that has to be same whatever mode of presentation you follow. So you can trust me, I'll make the chapter very, very simple for you all. Okay, let's start. Now when I say current assets, we will always start with stock. We will always start with stock, and you all know very well, you all have done in FI also manufacturing final accounts, and even in the earlier chapters of this subject you all have done. When I say stock, there are three major categories of stock. Stock of raw material, stock of finished goods, stock of work in progress WIP. Stock of raw materials, stock of WIP, stock of finished goods. If you are a trader, you don't deal, you are not into production, you just trade, you buy and sell, then there is no question of raw material and WIP. But if you are a manufacturer, then in that case, stock of raw material and stock of work in progress will come, which is there in this case. Now see, let's start. See the A point. Raw material remain in stock for 3 weeks and finished goods for 2 weeks. First, if there is raw material, finished goods and WIP, we will always start with raw material. So what you will do? Write the heading number 1 in Roman. Of course, you can do other also, but this is a normal trend. Roman number 1, and write there stock of raw materials. Stock of raw materials. Got it? Now listen guys. In these sums now, the brackets ka information will be important. In these type of sums, the brackets ka information will be important. Let's see now. I'll put a bracket. Now first, what we did, the standard thing, 500 units will be common. 500 units will be common. So what do you do? Put a bracket, 500. This will be standard. Now see, I am finding out stock of raw material. See that table, upar ka data. What is the cost of raw material per unit? The cost of raw material per unit is rupees 3. So what I'll do, I'll multiply by 3 rupees. I'll repeat, I have put a bracket. 500 is the number of units. 3 rupee is the cost of raw material. Now see, raw material remains in stock for how many weeks? 3 weeks. This means what? Today I buy raw material. 3 weeks that stock will lie with me. After that it will go for further processing. So what happened guys? 3 weeks के लिए मेरा पैसा block हो गया. Today I got the raw material. It will remain in my storage, warehouse. Not warehouse. It will remain in my storeroom for 3 weeks. Then it will go for further processing. Because you just cannot produce every day. You have to see your stock requirement. You have to see the customer ka demand. According to that, processing takes place. So this means today if I buy raw material, 3 weeks it will lie with me. After that it will go for processing. So 3 weeks के लिए मेरा पैसा block हो गया. So I will again multiply by 3 and close the bracket. Understand this. 500 units into 3 rupees the cost of raw material into 3 is 3 weeks. 500 you got from the working note, raw material cost from the starting part of the question, and 3 weeks for adjustment number A. So now if you calculate, 500 into 3 gives you 1500, 1500 into 3 gives you 4500. 500 into 3, 1500, and 1500 into 3, 4500. That means at any given point of time, understand the concept, at any given point of time, 4500 during the year which is going to come will be locked due to stock of raw material. So I need to see that at least 4500 at any given point of time has to be there for stock of raw material. That much money is blocked throughout the year at any given point of, because today after 3 weeks material goes, the other lot of material will come. So at any given point of time, stock of raw material will be blocked for 3 weeks. Second part, finished goods. Now finished goods, we will take it as third. We will go in the order of processing. After raw material, my next thing is stock of WIP, that is work in progress. Stock of work in progress. Underline. Okay. Now see, stock of WIP is in 3 parts: material, labor, overheads. You will have done this earlier also. In FI also you will have done in manufacturing final accounts, and you all had a separate chapter also. If you remember in costing, separate chapter for material, separate chapter for labor, and separate chapter for overheads. Okay, so material, labor and overheads are part of WIP. What is the meaning of WIP? Work in progress is the full form. Meaning means that part of stock which is yet to be completed, it is not fully finished. So that part of goods which are not 100% complete, which are partially completed, partly manufactured, is called as WIP. Because if it is fully manufactured, it becomes finished goods. Now as I told you, it will be in 3 parts. So what you will do, we will underline stock of work in progress and write all the 3 elements: raw materials, labor, that is direct labor, overheads. Raw materials, direct labor, overheads. Again, step by step, I will put a bracket and calculate each. Now, first, as I told you, 500 units is common. So let's take one by one. Raw materials, 500 into, raw material we know, raw material ka cost is 3 rupees, into I need WIP ka weeks. See the information. A adjustment ka second part is for finished goods. B part देखो, factory processing takes 3 weeks. That means once the processing starts to produce the final goods, once the processing starts to produce the final goods, the processing period is 3 weeks. So processing period is the number of weeks which is applicable to stock of work in progress. Processing period is the number of is that base which is applicable for stock of WIP. So when I say factory processing takes 3 weeks, raw material, labor, overheads which are a part of WIP, everywhere the number of weeks will be 3. So what you will do, this further you will multiply by 3. I'll repeat again. Have you got this? Same like earlier, but 500 is units, 3 is the cost of material. Here raw material was blocked for 3 weeks. Here processing period is 3 weeks. That is WIP, the processing. That means what? Today if I enter material, it takes 3 weeks to convert it into finished goods. So the processing went on for 3 weeks. So that processing period will be the period to be considered for WIP. And if you see, you get the same answer, 4,500. So 500 into 3 into 3, 4.5. Same way, labor. Again the same, 500 units. Now raw material I multiplied by 3, cost of raw material. Now you see the chart. Labor. How much is the cost of labor? Cost of labor is 4. So multiply by 4, and the number of weeks is 3. So multiply by 3. So 500 units into 4 rupees labor into the processing period, that is 3. So 500 into 4, 2000, 2000 into 3, 6000. Now here remember one very important point. Whenever you do WIP, very important point, then in WIP, when there is labor and overheads. Now listen very carefully. What I am explaining right now, it won't apply for material. When there is labor and overheads, you will not take full amount. Full amount matlab 500 into 4 into 3 is full amount. But understand this very carefully. What I told you, what is WIP? Work in progress. That means the goods are partly completed. Now listen very carefully. When I say partly completed, it can be anything. 5% complete, 10% complete, 30% complete, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 95, 98, 99, but not 100. Because if I say it is 100 complete, it becomes finished goods. When I say 100 complete, so it becomes finished goods. So what you will do, when nothing is mentioned in the question, it is always assumed that the goods are produced half. That means if no information is given in the question that to what extent WIP is complete, we'll assume the work is completed half. So everywhere WIP may labor you will take into 50% or half. If the question says WIP is completed to the extent of 60%, then here you will take 60%. 30%, 30%. But if nothing is mentioned, it will be 50%. I'll give you a note for this after the sum. That note is common for all the sums where WIP ka portion is not given. So I'll repeat, guys. 500 units, 4 cost of labor per unit was 4. 3 is the processing period in weeks, and 50% because no information is given. That means my stock of WIP, in that the component of labor and overhead will be 50%. Why not material? The reason is when I start the processing, material to I will send full only na. So material will always be 100%. Therefore I took the full value. But labor and overheads will always be 50%. So keep this in mind. Again I am repeating. When you calculate stock of WIP, the component of direct labor and overheads, you will take only 50%. The component of direct labor and overhead, you will take 50% for WIP ka part only. So 500 into 4, 2000, 2000 into 3, 6000, and 6000 ka half, I will take here 3000. 6000 ka half, I will take here 3000. This, again I am repeating, you will do for labor and overheads and not for material. Now same thing for overheads. 500 into, see the cost of overhead is how much? 2 into 3 weeks, and again the same thing into 50%. I'll repeat, guys. Overheads 500 units, which is common everywhere, into the cost of overheads per unit given in the question. 3 weeks, which is common for all three, raw material, WIP and finished goods, and again 50%. Why 50%? As I told you, if nothing is given, it is assumed that the stock of work in progress is completed to the extent of 50%. So 500 into 2, 1000, into 3, 3000, into 50%, that is 1500. So 4.5, you get the answer as 9000. Got it? So when there is WIP, you will give the heading stock of work in progress, underline raw material, labor, overheads, and this is the way you will do. After the sum, I'll give you a note also for this 50%. If your college says to write it, otherwise not required, but at least for one sum I will give you all. Then it will be common for the rest of the chapter wherever WIP you are calculating. Got it, guys? So WIP means that goods which are partly produced. 3 components of WIP: raw material, labor, overheads. Raw material you will take full value, labor and overheads 50% because the portion of completion is not given. And how will calculate raw material? Number of units into the cost per unit into the processing period, put the amount in the first column. Labor overheads, number of units into the cost of labor, into the cost of overhead, whatever is applicable, into the processing period and into 50%. Put the answers in the first column and the final figure outside will be your stock of WIP. Coming to the next thing, what I told you, three major types of stock: material, WIP and finished goods. That is the main goods what you are going to sell. So my next calculation will be stock of finished goods. Next calculation will be stock of finished goods. Finished goods is the main goods which you are going to sell, because ultimately what you are going to sell is finished goods only. But to manufacture those finished goods, I need raw material and WIP. So that we did. So now finished goods. These are the final product which you are going to sell to the customer. Same thing. 500 units. Now listen. When I value finished goods, I will value finished goods at total cost. When I value finished goods, I will value finished goods at total cost. Total cost in this means raw material 3 rupees, labor 4, overheads 2. Raw materials 3 rupees, labor 4, overheads 2. So 3 plus 4, 7, 7 plus 2, 9. Getting it? When I say raw material, labor, overheads, in this case, there are one or two exceptions where that expenses, those expenses won't be a part of finished goods. That I will tell you when we come to that relevant sum. But right now, this is more than enough. See, I am going very slow because later on, as and when I proceed now, majority of the calculation I already solve it, and then I'll explain I'll give you the brush up of the calculations. So initially I will do everything, but later on I will just focus more on the new points, what I have been doing in the earlier chapters also. Got it? So 500 into the total cost 9. 9 is already given there. Even if not given, raw material ka 3, labor ka 4, 7, overheads ka 2, 9. Now see, A adjustment ka second part. Finished goods is for how many weeks? 2 weeks. So finished goods I will multiply by 2. There is no 50% criteria here because the goods are finished. Finished matlab fully produced. So because if I take 50%, that is for WIP because the goods are not complete. So if they are complete, it has to be 100% complete, without which you cannot sell only. So finished goods means those goods which are finished, fully completed. So 500 number of units into 9 the total cost into the number of weeks, 2 weeks. That means at any given point of time, your finished goods equal to 2 months will be locked up. At any given point of time, WIP ka stock will be locked up for 3 weeks. At any given point of time, stock of raw material goods will be locked up for 3 months. So that much amount at any given point of time has to be a part of your working capital. You need that much finance at any given point of time. Iska calculation, 500 into 9, 4.5, 4.5 into 2, again it is 9,000. Got it guys? Now see, A part done, B part done. Now see, suppliers allow 5 weeks ka credit. Now when I say suppliers, supplier is another name for creditor. And when I say creditor, creditor is a current liability. Right now we are calculating current assets, so we don't need current liability right now. We will need it, but after we get the total current asset. So keep the C point pending. D, customers are allowed 8 weeks credit. Customer means debtors. Customer means debtors, and you all know very well, sundry debtors or debtors are a part of your current assets. So my next heading will be number 4, that is sundry debtors. Number 4, sundry debtors. Now see how you will calculate. Unit sale 500 into. Now when I say debtors, who are debtors? Debtors are the people to whom we sell goods. Debtors are the people to whom we sell goods, customers. So because we are selling them goods, when we calculate debtors, we will always take selling price unless and until the question tells you to do something else. There are one or two sums where later on question tells you to take debtors at cost, but that is only when it is mentioned. So if nothing is given, debtors will always be at selling price, the price at which you are going to sell the goods to the customer. So how much is my selling price? See in the question. You know 10 rupees, you already divided. So into 10, and this you will multiply by the credit period, that is 8 weeks. Why 8 weeks? Because today if I sell goods to my debtors, I will get the money after 8 weeks. Understand the concept. Today if I sell goods to my debtors, I have given them a credit of 8 weeks. So I will get the money after 8 weeks. So my money is blocked for 8 weeks. My money is blocked for 8 weeks. So number of units into the selling price into the credit period, that is 8 weeks. So 500 into 10, 5,000, 5,000 into 8, that is 40,000. 5,000 into 8, that is 40,000. Clear guys? Debtors are the people to whom we sell goods. So that much amount, and when I say debtors, you always sell on credit only. So credit period is 8 weeks, so my money gets blocked for 8 weeks. So number of units into selling price into number of weeks. Now as I told you, in few cases the question will tell you to cost. Understand this very interesting point in practical life. I have sold them goods for 10 rupees. My cost is 9. That means profit is 1 rupee. So 1 rupee ka profit I will earn only when my customer pays. So there is a difference of opinion that you should not be taking 10, because right now you have incurred 9 only. 10 rupees so you are going to get after 8 weeks. So that is wrong. That is one assumption. Second assumption is I am doing business to make profits only. Na? So when I take debtors I will take only that value at which I am selling them. So that makes more sense. Both the logics are okay. They are not wrong. But this one makes more sense. So in your syllabus, everywhere you will take debtors at selling price only, unless and until the question tells you to do something. That we will see when that particular point comes. Got it? So I'll repeat. 500 units was common everywhere. Debtors I took selling price. Finished goods I took total cost. WIP may I segregated raw material, labor, overheads. I multiplied the respective prices into the number of weeks. Labor overheads into 50% and raw material to price of raw material. Anything else is there? No. Creditors is there, but that is not a part of your current assets. So now what you do? Take the total. 4,500 plus 9 plus 9 plus 42. This gives you 62,500. Next to this 62,500, write capital A and put it in brackets. Write capital A and put it in brackets. Now this is what? This is my total of current assets. Total of current assets in this chapter is also called as gross working capital. Total of current assets is also called as gross working capital, given in theory and objective also. This is the first sum. I will write both. So what you will do? Gross working capital slash total what you call it as according to that. Common word is gross working capital, but it is also called as total current assets. Clear? So this was the major part of this chapter, of this particular sum, getting the total current assets. Alternate name is gross working capital. Now what is the name of the chapter? Working capital. I need working capital, not gross, net. Net means after deducting the liability. So what I do, I got the current assets. From this current assets, I will deduct current liabilities. From this, I will deduct current liabilities. What comes in current liability? Creditors, bills payable, outstanding expenses, bank overdraft, short-term loans, etc., etc. Income received in advance. When you pay in advance, it is an asset, but when you receive in advance, it is a liability. Got it, guys? Now listen. One point is pending, that is C. Suppliers allow 5 weeks credit. Supplier means creditors. So right there, number 1. Again, number 1. Why? Because this is first of your current liability. And there is only one current liability. So number 1, sundry creditors. Sundry creditors. Again the same thing. Units 500 into what is the cost of raw material per unit? Why raw material? Understand this. Who are creditors? Okay. Debtors. Who are debtors? Debtors are the people to whom I sell goods. I took selling price. Creditors are the people from whom I bought goods. And what I am buying? There are 3 things: material, labor, overheads. Labor is paid to the workers. Expenses are incurred. So when I have to buy, what I will buy? Raw material. So creditors will be taken at the value of raw material. Creditors will be taken at the value of raw material, which is 3 rupees per unit. So number of units remains common into the raw material per unit, that is 3. So 500 into 3, that is 1500. And see the credit weeks, how much it is? 5 weeks. So I multiply by 5. See here, my money was blocked. Here, why I am deducting the logic, understand? Because I will be saving here. I am the creditor. If I am the creditor, I am enjoying the credit. Na? So the person from whom I bought this material, I will have to pay him after 5 weeks. So today if I have money to pay the creditors, I don't have to pay him. Now I will have to pay him after 5 weeks. Here my debtors will pay me after 8 weeks. So my money was blocked. So I added. Here I will be getting the liberty to use the money for 5 weeks. If I have money, no need to pay today. My creditors have given me a credit period of 5 weeks. So I have to pay them after 5 weeks. So to that extent, I can enjoy the credit. That is the reason it will be deducted from current assets. So creditors, number of units into the cost of material. Why cost of material? Because it is material which I am going to buy from my creditors, and into the credit period given by them. Debtors may units into the selling price, into the credit period what I give to my debtors, here into the credit period what I get from my creditors. So 500 into 3, 1500, 1500 into 5, that gives me 7500. Nothing else is there. This is the only current liability. For presentation purpose, we will take the total, make it as B 7500, and this, there is no other alternative word, you will call it as total current liabilities. Call it as total current liabilities. Got it? So A was gross working capital or total current assets. B was total current liabilities. Now what is the name of the chapter? Working capital. So your working capital is nothing but A minus B. So working capital will be A minus B. We call it as total working capital because there will be some adjustments, some 1 or 2 points will come. So there will be a different variation, but here there is nothing much. So here we will call it as working capital. We can also write total working capital because in this case working capital and total working capital will be the same. आगे जाके there will be a change, there will be variations where the working capital and total working capital will vary, but here it is same. So this is my working capital, which is also called as net working capital. So 62,500 minus 7,500, that gives me 55,000. Got it, guys? Now understand. This means what? That means during the entire year, at any given point of time, 55,000 should be there with me, so I don't face any problem for managing all this. At any given point of time, 55,000 amount has to be with me, so I don't face any problem. That is called as working capital. And why it is short term? Because the amounts will keep on changing, but ultimately 55,000 will be blocked. Material will keep on moving. Finished goods will keep on moving. WIP will keep on moving. Debtors say I will sell, paisa aayega. I will sell, paisa aayega. Creditors say I'll buy, paisa dunga. I'll pay, I'll buy, I'll pay. So it keeps on fluctuating, but it keeps on moving. But at any given point of time, the money is blocked. So 55,000 is my working capital. My investment is 62,500. At the same time, from my creditors, I am enjoying a credit of 7.5. So utna paisa come. So 62,500 minus 7.5, 55,000. So guys, this is the concept of working capital. As I told you, here you can also use the word total working capital. Clear with this, guys? So this was the first session of working capital. Starting by I made you understand the meaning of working capital. Equation to you all know, it is current assets minus current liability, and this is the way how we did the sum. Wherever there is any breakup of cost, like in this case, material, labor, overheads per unit, selling price is given per unit, then in that case, the first thing what you need to know is you have to find out the number of units produced and sold per week, what we did, and then this calculation. Guys, listen to this video very carefully because later on, as I told you, this is a comparatively simple chapter. All these points I'll go very slow for few sums, then I'll rush up because then you all know the calculation. Then half the things what I did in the earlier chapters I will already solve on the board and keep, and just I'll keep on doing the new points with you all in detail. Of course, I'll give you the brush up of I'll give you the base how you got the amount in each and every sum, but calculation will be made and I will solve the new parts. That we'll see later on. But before that, before we meet in the next class, please see to it that this sum you all have understood very carefully, because this is the base of this chapter which will continue for the rest of the chapter. This base will be there along with other variations. Okay guys, so this was the first session of the new chapter, working capital. As I mentioned, understand this sum very carefully before we meet in the next class. So that's it. See you all in the next class. Till then, take care guys. Have a nice day.